Welcome back to another in our series of questions from the Old Testament. Our 14th in this series comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1 and verse 3, which asks the question, "What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun?" To give our question the context, we'll be reading chapter 1 of the book of Ecclesiastes, beginning in verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. "Vanity of vanities," says the preacher. "Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it is said, 'See, this is new'? It has already been in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to come among those who come after. I, the preacher, had been king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out, by wisdom, all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is but a striving after wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow." Recently, my granddaughter was visiting, and I took her for a tour around the area where her mother had grown up and showed her some of the places that we had spent. In another career, I was a contractor and did a bit of roofing. As I showed her some of the homes and businesses I roofed, I noticed that they had been re-roofed. All of the roofing that I had done was already replaced. Not that my labor was faulty, but such is the nature of the material. It's only designed to last 20 to 25 years, and they had reached their life expectancy. Nonetheless, I felt a sort of emptiness at the thought that all of my labor those many years ago had been covered over and replaced. Solomon asks a question right at the beginning of his work. We don't even have time to settle in before he hits us with one of the biggest of the big questions of life. In essence, he asks, what are we here for? What is the meaning of life? Actually, he has already concluded this even before he poses the question. Vanity, emptiness, meaninglessness. That's what life is. Every aspect seems that way. The sun goes round and round, generations come and generations go. The wind blows here, and the wind comes back again to where it started. Water cycles its way around the world and comes back to its beginning, only to start the cycle again. Everywhere Solomon looks, he sees the same pattern. Well, that's the price you pay for wisdom. Solomon found out the price you pay for wisdom. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow, in verse 18 of chapter 1. So what's the point? It is interesting that Solomon begins the book by describing some cyclical aspects of the world around us, the sun, the wind, the water, and man's labors. He will spend the entirety of the book examining the meaninglessness, emptiness, and vanity of life, only to come right back to where he starts in the final verses of the book. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. By Solomon, you crafty wordsmith, you. You created your own cycle within a cycle. Well played, my friend. Well played. I suppose Solomon could have simplified this entire treatise on the meaning of one's life by saying concisely, don't wear yourself out in selfish pursuits. Just fear God and do what he tells you. But that would be rather anticlimactic, don't you think? Someone once told me, learn from other people's mistakes. You won't live long enough to make them all yourself. That certainly would have saved me a great deal of grief had I actually believed it and acted upon that advice. In reality, that's exactly what Solomon is telling us. In a nutshell, look at how I have wasted my life on empty pursuits only to find I knew the answer all along. After all, isn't that what God told Solomon when he became the king of Israel in 1 Kings 3:14? When he told him, and if you walk in my ways, keep my statutes and my commandments as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days. Aren't you glad we've learned that lesson in our lives? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow and consider another question from the Old Testament.